She thought it was just a simple lunch payment. But what happened next shocked everyone. The receipt fluttered on the counter like a small, forgotten promise, and in that single, ordinary moment, a decision made by one tired woman changed the lives of people who didn't even know they were about to collide. No cameras were rolling, no one was watching closely, yet something quietly powerful was about to unfold inside a small, crowded restaurant where most people came only to fill their stomachs, not their hearts. Before we go any further, if you believe that kindness still exists in this world, if you believe small actions can create big changes, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel for more stories that remind us we're all still human. Aisha had learned to keep her head down. Life had taught her that expecting too much only led to disappointment. At 32, she carried the weight of responsibilities far heavier than her slim frame suggested. A modest job, a small rented apartment, and a past filled with quiet sacrifices had shaped her into someone who survived more than she lived. Every morning she followed the same routine, waking before sunrise, preparing herself for another long day, telling herself that getting through it was enough. That afternoon, exhaustion clung to her like a shadow as she stepped into a small roadside restaurant, the kind where the smell of fried food mixed with old memories and worn-out chairs told stories of countless strangers who had passed through. The place was busy, noisy in a dull, familiar way. Plates clattered, people rushed, and no one seemed to notice anyone else. Aisha ordered a simple meal, counting the money in her wallet twice before handing it over. Money was always tight, and every expense felt like a small gamble. She took a seat near the corner, her eyes scanning the room without really seeing anything, until she noticed him. A man sat a few tables away, older than her, his shoulders slightly hunched, his clothes clean but clearly worn thin by time. He kept looking at the menu, then away, then back again, as if hoping the prices might change if he stared long enough. There was something painfully familiar about his hesitation. Aisha recognized that look because she had worn it herself many times. The silent calculation, the quiet embarrassment, the hope that no one noticed the struggle happening behind the eyes. She watched as he finally closed the menu and lowered his head, his hands resting on the table as if he were gathering the courage to stand up and leave. For a moment, she looked away, telling herself it wasn't her problem. She had her own worries, her own bills, her own fears about tomorrow. But something tugged at her, a memory perhaps of days when a small kindness could have changed everything for her but never came. Or maybe it was simply the heaviness of the world pressing down, making her crave a reason to believe that goodness still mattered. Before she could overthink it, before fear or logic could stop her, she stood up, walked to the counter, and quietly paid for an extra meal, gesturing subtly toward the man's table. She didn't wait to see his reaction. She returned to her seat, her heart pounding as if she had done something reckless instead of kind. When the server placed the food in front of the stranger and explained that it had already been paid for, time seemed to slow. The man froze, confusion washing over his face, then disbelief, and finally something far deeper. His eyes scanned the room, searching for an answer, landing briefly on Aisha. Their eyes met for just a second. She quickly looked down, pretending to focus on her own plate, hoping he wouldn't approach her, hoping the moment would pass quietly. But it didn't. The man didn't eat right away. He sat there, staring at the food as if it were more than just a meal. His shoulders began to shake, and though the restaurant noise continued around them, a heavy silence settled over his table. People nearby started to notice. A server paused. A customer glanced over. The man wiped his face with trembling hands, overcome by emotions he had clearly been holding back for far too long. Aisha felt a knot form in her chest. She hadn't expected this. She hadn't done it for attention, and now the weight of the moment felt almost too much to bear. When the man finally stood up, carrying his plate carefully, he walked toward her table. Her first instinct was panic. She wasn't ready for gratitude, for tears, for being seen. She'd only wanted to help and disappear back into her own life. He stopped beside her, his presence heavy with unspoken stories. He didn't speak loudly, but the sincerity in his voice cut through the noise of the room. He explained that he hadn't eaten a proper meal in days, that life had taken everything from him in slow, painful ways. A job lost, a family drifted apart, pride shattered piece by piece. He said that he had come into the restaurant not really expecting to eat, just to sit somewhere warm and feel normal for a few minutes. What Aisha had done, he told her, wasn't just about food. It reminded him that he still mattered to someone, even a stranger. The room had gone quiet. People listened, some uncomfortable, others deeply moved. A few looked away, wiping their eyes. Aisha felt tears blur her vision as she realized the true weight of her small decision. She had been so focused on her own survival that she had forgotten how powerful compassion could be. She tried to downplay it, to make it seem smaller than it was, but the man wouldn't let her. He thanked her again, his voice breaking, and returned to his seat, finally eating with a gratitude that felt almost sacred. What happened next shocked everyone. One by one, people in the restaurant began to act. Someone quietly paid for another table's meal. Another left extra money at the counter. A young boy convinced his mother to buy food for the kitchen staff. The atmosphere changed, as if a light had been switched on inside a place that had long been dim. The owner, watching from behind the counter, announced that anyone who couldn't afford a meal that day would be fed. It was as if Aisha's single act had unlocked something buried deep within all of them. Aisha left the restaurant feeling lighter and heavier at the same time. Lighter because she had witnessed goodness ripple outward in ways she never imagined. Heavier because she realized how much pain existed quietly around her every day. That night, she lay awake, replaying the scene in her mind, wondering why it had taken her so long to believe that she could make a difference. Days passed, then weeks. Life didn't suddenly become easy. Her problems didn't vanish. Bills still arrived, work was still tiring, and the future was still uncertain. But something inside her had shifted. She started noticing people more. She smiled at strangers. She offered help when she could, even in the smallest ways. And slowly, unexpectedly, life began to respond. A coworker recommended her for a better position. A neighbor she had once helped brought her groceries when money was tight. Kindness, she learned, had a way of returning when you least expected it. Months later, Aisha received a letter. It was from the man at the restaurant. He had found her through the owner, who remembered her name. In the letter, he shared that he had found steady work, that he was rebuilding his life piece by piece. He wrote that whenever things felt overwhelming, he thought about that day, about a stranger who saw him when he felt invisible. He promised that he would spend the rest of his life passing that kindness forward. As Aisha read the letter, tears streamed down her face. She realized then that the world didn't change through grand gestures or loud declarations, but through quiet moments of courage and compassion. One lunch, one decision, one act of humanity had created a chain reaction that touched countless lives, including her own. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that even the smallest act of kindness can change someone's entire world, please take a moment to like this video, share it with others, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Your engagement helps these stories reach people who need them most. And before this story ends, I have a special request for you. Comment below and tell us about a time when a small act of kindness changed your life or someone else's. Your story might be the hope someone else is searching for today. Aisha never became famous. Her story never made the news. But somewhere, every day, kindness continues to travel from one heart to another, because she chose to care when it would have been easier not to. And sometimes, that is more than enough to shock the world.